still unable to find him in the dense woods.
Everything that I'm able to see, the various sightings that we've had, other aspects of this investigation lead me to believe that he is still there in that area.
Sources tell ABC News the extreme heat is hindering the search, making it much harder for authorities to locate body temperature signals from their helicopters above. But authorities say they won't let up.
It is important that we keep pressure on him as we continue the hunt.
So let's bring in Trevor Ault live in Pennsylvania again tonight. Chester County officials, Trevor, are facing tough questions tonight about how the convicted murderer was able to escape. We saw that video there you just reported on. They've been warned about this prison?
And that's right, David, especially after that first prison break in May. But the acting warden says outside security consultants told them adding that razor wire to the roof would prevent an escape like this from happening again. That obviously wasn't the case. And now that tower guard who didn't see or report Cavalcante's escape is now on administrative leave. David?
Trevor Ault live in Pennsylvania tonight. Trevor, thank you. Tonight, this late season heat wave setting records from Texas all the way up into the Northeast. 88 million Americans in 20 states now on alert tonight. And now this new front coming set to collide with all this heat and the real risk for damaging storms in major cities in the Northeast in the next 24 hours. Tonight, New York City still under a heat advisory, the first heat wave of the year here. Many schools without air conditioning canceling in-person classes or dismissing early. And just before we came on the air tonight, the tropical system that has now become a hurricane, Hurricane Lee, they forecast it could reach Category 4 status. We have the latest possible tracks tonight. Of course, the question, could it affect the East? Let's bring in senior meteorologist Rob Marciano, tracking it all for us, beginning with the heat tonight. Hey, Rob.
Well, David, we got that report today that also said that August, the ocean temperatures globally record high, and that is fuel for hurricanes. We will get to Lee in a second, but first, Baltimore, 100 degrees, your third record in a row. Newark, Albany, Burlington, all broke records today. Heat advisories up into Texas as well. That front's going to crawl to the east and not really come through, and it's going to spark damaging storms during the afternoon tomorrow. D.C., Baltimore, Philly, New York City, all the way up into New England. These could have some damaging winds, and the humidity sticks around. All right, Hurricane Lee now, about 1,000 miles east of the Leeward Islands. The forecast is to keep it north of the Caribbean, but it exploded in intensity, rapid intensification with those warm waters to Cat 4 status by Saturday. Then sometime on Monday, it'll be somewhere north of Puerto Rico. And then we're looking at computer models that the longer range ones want to turn it north. But at this point, it's so far away, there's no way to predict with any sort of confidence that this thing will miss the U.S. David?
Yeah, hopefully north and out to sea. But again, as you point out, Rob, it's still so early. We'll continue to track it right here with you. Thanks, Rob. We're going to turn now to another breaking headline just as we came on tonight involving 5 detainees held at Guantanamo Bay accused of aiding the attacks on 9/11. Tonight, President Biden is now rejecting the proposed conditions for plea deals involving all 5. The New York Times reporting the suggested conditions included guilty pleas in exchange for maximum punishments of life in prison, sparing them the death penalty. The decision comes just days before the nation commemorates the 9/11 attacks. Now to the televised court scene in Georgia today, the charges involving former President Trump and 18 other co-defendants. What the judge signaled today about whether all of them will be tried together. Here's our senior investigative reporter, Aaron Kaczynski, in Georgia tonight.
Tonight, prosecutors in Atlanta telling the judge they expect the trial of former President Trump and his 18 alleged co-conspirators to take 4 months and involve dozens of witnesses.
In excess of 150 witnesses that the state intends to call.
Prosecutors want to try all 19 defendants, including Trump, together. But today, Judge Scott McAfee seemed unconvinced.
I remain very skeptical, but we can, I'm willing to hear what you have to say on it.
It came in a hearing where 2 of the defendants, lawyers Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesbrough, each asked to stand trial alone and earlier than the others. Powell had pushed the false conspiracy theory that Georgia election machines were controlled by Venezuela.
What we are really dealing with here and uncovering more by the day is the massive influence of communist money through Venezuela, Cuba, and likely China.
Today, her lawyers saying Powell played at most a small role in the broader conspiracy alleged.
Ms. Powell had nothing to do with most of it. Ms. Powell had nothing to do with false statements to state legislators, nothing to do with false statements to high-ranking government officials.
Chesbrough allegedly plotted to keep Trump in power using fake electors to falsely certify Trump won Georgia. His attorney arguing there's no reason to try him alongside anyone else.
The state wants to make this case about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is one of 19 defendants. Ken Chesbrough is another one.
But prosecutors argue even if Chesbrough and Powell had limited roles, they're charged with taking part in a larger conspiracy.
Anytime a person enters into a conspiracy, they are liable for all of the acts of all of their co-conspirators.
And tonight, the judge sided with prosecutors, ruling that Powell and Chesbrough should stand trial together October 23rd. But he still hasn't decided whether the former president and the others will stand trial with them or at a later date.
It just seems a bit unrealistic to think that we can handle all 19 and 40-something days.
The judge will hold another hearing next week to decide whether prosecutors get their wish to try all 19 defendants together. Former President Trump was asked today, David, whether he would testify in Georgia or any of the other 3 criminal trials he faces. He said he would. But we know, David, his lawyers may have a different view. David?
Aaron Kaczynski reporting on the case again tonight. Thank you, Aaron. This evening, a new legal obstacle for former President Trump, a lawsuit aiming to bar him from the primary ballot in Colorado, citing the 14th Amendment. That amendment's disqualification clause bars any person from holding federal or state office if they, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the U.S., whether or not they were convicted of the crime. The lawsuit, filed on behalf of 6 Republicans and unaffiliated Colorado voters, claiming Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020
and they trying to stop this man from running again.
Filed in other states. We turn now to the war in Ukraine tonight, and horrific scene, a deadly Russian strike targeting